Hey guys, this is Anna with Shadowwick. Again, it's been months since doing a video. Um, but it is October, so as some of you may know, every October they have there's all these pop-ups of artists doing inktober, where you draw or create art based on a prompt word. The whole calendar for the month of October split up. Every day has a special word. Um, I'm not an artist. I can't draw or paint or create art like that, but I do make candles and other witchy creations, I guess. So what I like doing is taking one of those Inktober calendar word prompts and see if I can't find a spiritual connection to them to create a candle, or another witchy creation, but I mainly stick with candles. uh, I like delving into what I call nerdy inspirations. So we have, the whole pop pantheon to connect to. You can connect to pop culture, be it literature, artists, music, films, things, anything, comic books, Disney. You can connect to any of these things and and usually find a real deep spiritual meaning behind, these characters and themes. So the prompt word that came for day one, given the word list that I'm working off of, was wand. And aside from my friend Brandon's amazing wand crafting with Greystorm wands, I think of Harry Potter. I know a lot of people who love the Harry Potter world. Uh, for a lot of us, I shouldn't say a lot of us, for a lot of people I know, it was kind of their first introduction to magic and this mysticism and otherworldly things. So it has a very special place in their heart, no matter what social commentary may be causing turbulence or how much you may not agree with the author and creator of the world. You Most people can still appreciate the world and have those warm fuzzies. So when I thought of wand, I thought of Harry Potter, and of course, that brought about the thoughts of the Elder Wand, which is not a very warm and fuzzy subject, but definitely packs a punch spiritually. So I created an Elder Wand candle. The thing about the Elder Wand is it's one of the Horcruxes, it's part of the Deathly Hallows. It's a wand that is supposed to be so powerful that it cheats death in a way. But oddly enough, every owner of it, of course, meets their end, usually very painfully and untimely, because everyone covets that kind of power. But the true power of it is to become a true master. And the way you become a true master is because you don't seek to run away from death. So it's not like you're wielding its power because you're afraid of death. It's more you're at one with it. You kind of embrace it. You know it's inevitable. And you also kind of understand there's a lot of ugly things in this world that are far more painful and far more tragic than death. Death is a very natural thing, and although it is one of my top fears, and I am deathly afraid of death, as odd as that is to say, I really loved the quote, I believe that Dumbledore says to Harry, which is, "You are the true master of the death." Blah blah blah. Be helpful if I could read my writing. You are the true master of death, because a true master does not seek to run away from death. He accepts that he must die, and understands that there are far, far worse things in the living world than dying. And that is what, in a nutshell, this candle is about. It's about looking at death cycles. That does not mean death of self, of someone else. It certainly can, but it's about death cycles. Everything has a death cycle. The nature, the seasons, the seasons in nature. We're in autumn now. This is a death cycle. It's coming round. Things are slowly dying. As beautiful as the trees are, they are so gorgeous, but they are dying. We feel the air start to crisp. We feel, especially in Minnesota, although today was almost 80, because, that's how things go. But we should be feeling the air start to crisp and things start to get colder. We've just had the autumnal equinox, so the nights are getting longer and longer. Darkness is becoming more and more of a thing. It's beginning to ebb into that death cycle. And it's so easy when things start to kind of spiral downward to be afraid of that, to fear the ending of something. Endings are rough. They are hard. They suck a lot of times. But the thing, as cliche as it is, and it does become so cliche, especially in the pagan community, but death is so beautiful because it brings rebirth. And it's so true. It's so freaking true. It is glorious to see something end, and sometimes it ends painfully and disastrous and horrifically. But the only silver lining in that at times is, but if this has ended so catastrophically, what kind of new life is going to take form here? What rebirth is going to come from this destruction? If something is catastrophic, the resurrection must be that much better. It's just how I view things. It's sometimes all you can do is have that faith that when there is an ending cycle coming, when there is a death cycle on your door, and it is beyond terrifying and horrible, that, okay, but something better is going to come along because I have made way for it. As awful as endings are, holding on to something is so much worse so often. Because it's safe, it's convenient, it's comfortable. Comfortable is a wonderful, wonderful thing, but it can be so enabling and debilitating as well. I get so scared myself of things ending and changing. Like, that's the other part of death. Death isn't necessarily death. It's change. The death card in the tarot deck isn't you're going to die. It's, dude, you're going to get hit with a change and it is going to be a thing. And transformation is scary. It is rough. That's why they call it shadow working. It is a thing, right? But what comes after is so renewing and can be so much better. And there's so many times, at least in my life, that I can think back on and I go, oh my gosh, why didn't I just let this end? Like, I've held on to something and nope, I don't need to let this stop. I don't need to drop a ball. I'm okay. Everything's fine. I'm burning myself out. I'm upsetting everyone around me. My loved ones don't want to talk to me anymore, but darn it, I'm still juggling. All the balls are up in the air. It's okay. And when I stepped back and let all the balls fall and I'm just sitting there in chaos and destruction and, oh my gosh, how could I do this? How could I let this? Oddly enough, then things were able to kind of take a new path. Endings are just a time of transition. And that transition is hard, but it is needed. That is the only way growth is ever going to come. And that growth is so important. So that, after a tangent, is what this candle is created to aid people with. It's to focus on clearing the way for new growth and new life. We have the hourglasses up here to help see that time. Sometimes time is needed. You need to take that time, but sometimes you need to let it go and just be like, you know what? It's here. It's arrived. This is the deadline. It's time to release. At the top, I have the sickle from the witch's runes. And I kind of combined it, you can't really see the sides, but I did combine it with the other witch's rune of the crossroads. Both of these are symbols of change, uh, death cycles, decisions that need to be made. I find both of them really help with clarity, taking in what you must, but also reaping what you sow. Sometimes it's very nice to think of things as endings as being these wonderful things that, yes, can be painful, but bring about good rebirth. Sometimes endings happen because we muck it up and we just make the wrong choice. And we kind of have to smack ourselves in the head a few times, like, oh my gosh, that was so stupid. But you know what? I'm going to pick up my pieces and I'm going to start over again. And we go back to that great puzzle of life and we get back to the jigsaw puzzle. And it works out. There's so many times in my life I look at things and go, you know what? I don't know how this is going to work, but it's going to work because it has to. Because no matter what, I'm going to be here the next day and this needs to work. And the sickle and the crossroads are two witches' runes that really speak to me about those moments where I'm just like, I'm not sure where this is going, but it'll be okay because it has to be. And if I stumble, if something ends and I didn't want it to end, if something hurts and I didn't want it to hurt, I'm going to learn from it. And there's power in that as well. Then, of course, we have the Elder Wand itself. Within the Elder Wand, I've put symbols for connection to things. At the very top is a little itty-bitty eye. It just kind of looks like a little divot. But, of course, for insight, the waning moon, the crone moon, X for protection, also endings and just kind of release, death, all that jazz. Star for magic. Here we have an arrow for strength, and then the spiral for transformation. Of course, the triple spiral at the bottom, past, present, future, connection to the fates, all those kind of lovely, warm things. Our balance spheres. And then, of course, my attempt at the Deathly Hallows connection with the wand going through it. That image I cannot claim as my own. That I definitely Googled the Elder Wand to get a little bit more in-depth connection to the meaning behind it, more so than what I could remember from the Harry Potter books and movies. And I saw this image of the Elder Wand over the Deathly Hallows symbol, and I just loved it. And then on the back, in the Theban alphabet, we have that quote that I read earlier, that Albus Dumbledore, I believe, says to Harry Potter, about being the true master of death, because you don't run from death, you embrace it and understand it is inevitable. And with that knowledge, you also see that there's a lot worse stuff in the living world than death. And I think that's something we need to remember, kind of hearkening back to that whole, sometimes death is a good thing, sometimes we need it. Holding on to things and trying to make something last that should be let go of and released is one of the most toxic things I've ever done, at least in my life. I hate speaking for other people, but it's that if I hold on to something too tightly, does it really belong to me? Is it really a path I'm supposed to be on if I have to force it? And what am I really gaining from holding on to something that's gone stagnant? And sometimes it isn't about, I'm holding on to it because it's stagnant. Like, you don't necessarily realize that's what it is. A lot of times that's the beginning to that death cycle, is just admitting this has run its course. And that is sometimes the hardest thing to admit. So if you are finding yourself at that crossroads and you are trying to see if something needs to be ending, or perhaps you are dealing with an actual physical death of someone or something, this candle was, honestly, as cliche as it is, was made for you. And that is day one of my Witchtober. Thanks, guys. Bye.